Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit, shall we? This all goes back to the year of 1979 when a certain film directed by Sir Ridley Scott came out and blended the genres of science fiction and horror together to create a very unique film that has had a long-lasting impression ever since. This was none other than Alien. Now, Alien was one of the few films that happened to get a very, very, very good sequel 7 years later, which was, of course, Aliens. And you can see the long-lasting impression by the fact that they are board games based on it. Now, flash forward again, about 6 years later, 7 years later actually, and there was a toy line of toys based on Aliens being released. But these were not actually based on the film themselves. They were actually based on an unreleased cartoon that was scrapped at the last minute known as Operation Aliens. Now, this toy line actually started in 1992, and I have here one of the figures from 1993, which is the Snake Alien. A very unique type of Xenomorph. The toy line was very noticeable for having unique type of aliens, along with unique action features. As you can see, this has a bite. Now, as harmless as this may be, and as cool as this may be, it was only a matter of time before someone came along and took that design and completely redid it. Now, this is where we get to the real meat and potatoes of the video. Because NECA, for Series 13 of their Aliens line, released this nightmarish, horrific monstrosity. And that's what we're taking a look at in this video. The NECA Toys Aliens Series 13 Kenner Homage Snake Alien, with a direct comparison with the original Kenner toy. Now, this figure did come with one accessory, which was a Dark Horse mini-comic, which also came with the original Kenner Aliens toy. So what NECA did was reprint the mini-comic and put it with their figure, which makes perfect sense. However, I don't have it, sadly, so I can't show you the contents. So, with that out of the bat, let's get on to the figure itself. Now, straightening the figure out, you can see that it has quite some length to it. A lot of length. This is a huge figure. This is probably one of the biggest Alien figures released, just purely because most of its body from here downward is pure tail. Now, this is where we get something very interesting, this tail, because you can see the swivel point where it plugs in. This whole tail piece, which I can't even fit on camera, well, just about, is a reused part from the Alien Queen. That's right. This entire section from this swivel cut all the way down to the tip is reused from their Alien Queen figure. And that, as a part reuse, I think is a genius idea. It makes perfect sense to reuse this piece. So that is something I do like, you know, the reuse of the parts here. But everything else, from the swivel cut upwards, is an entirely unique sculpt, which, as you can see, looks horrific. Comparing it with the original toy, you can see there has been a lot, I mean a lot, of inspiration taken, but they have made it more realistic and more nightmarish. I have to bend it, sorry, because of how long this thing is. You can see as well that the chest details have definitely been carried over but upgraded, and if we turn the figures around, you can see more or less the same thing there. The kind of copperish, sparkly brown dry brush has been changed here with a nice copper, and you can see the tails as well. If I straighten these out and show you, you will see that the tails right here are similar-ish. In terms of the general side bits, they're quite similar, but the ends are very different because this is unique to this figure, whereas, like I said, this whole tailpiece is a reuse of the Alien Queen. But I don't mind this change, actually, because this blade definitely is a lot more intimidating, a lot more dangerous, and more realistic for a Xenomorph than a two-pronged thingamajig. Now, this figure has a couple of things going for it. Every single one of these little toothy bits can move. So you can rotate them and you can hinge them out. This isn't a traditional review because the articulation is just so weird. So these all hinge out, creating a horrifying look, which is definitely how I display it on the shelf with all these out. It almost looks something that you would see a vampire wear, but not just that, it also makes you think of a Venus flytrap with teeth on it. Now that's not just all, because these pieces can also move, and if we hinge the jaw down, you can see that it now directly replicates the original 90s toy. And this is where you can clearly see a load of the inspiration when it comes to the head. It is a beautiful, beautiful homage to the original toy. And here you can see the nice details and the nice dry brushing of dark and green and lime in there, as opposed to the original just being a translucent green. It is definitely very nice. And what's interesting is that the teeth on this are silver, but if you come to the Neca figure, they have changed these fangs and made them purple, a metallic purple, which I quite like, actually. It adds a bit of colour to it. It makes it pop. Now, that being said, this figure is one of the few that, pretty much the only one, actually, that replicates the original gimmick from the toy. So if we take a look at the original Kenner toy, you saw that when I moved this, the jaw comes out, and these spring out, and the little inner jaw moves there as well, which is kind of neat. So it's biting you with its fangs. Now the Neca toy, just like the other Xenomorphs, also has the extendable jaw, but this is actually worse because this whole section, just like the original Kenner toy, juts out. So if I just, you can see, it juts out like so. And notice how the inner jaw moves on the original Kenner toy. Well, this is something that not many reviewers have pointed out. The inner jaw on this horrible thing moves as well. So you don't just get that jutting out at you. You get that. Which definitely makes the original Kenner toy look completely harmless. You'll see it clear in some photos at the end. This has to be the longest phalangeal jaw I have ever seen on a Xenomorph. In fact, I've got my Alien Covenant protomorph right here. I'll grab that and I'll get the inner jaw out because this one also has quite a long inner jaw. As you can see, this is quite long, and I thought this was long at first, but no. The Snake Aliens is longer. A lot longer. Like, it's almost the length of my little finger. This is fucking insane, excuse my language. Look at this thing. Now, despite this, there is more articulation. Whereas the original Kenner toy only had a cut joint at the head which could rotate side to side, and a bendy wire tail, which I do want to stress to be careful of because this is a 30-year-old toy now and the vinyl wasn't the best, so as you can see mine's actually split. I need to find a way to fuse that back together. The Neca figure has a bit more going for it. So I've already shown you the fangs here that can rotate and it can hinge, and these little tooth claws can hinge and rotate as well. Of course, as you know, the tail can swivel on this cut joint where it pegs in, and it is a very nice, strong, bendy wire, as you can see. Now, don't worry about this flexing and stressing in between, it's not a problem. But there is also the head. The head can move as well. Oh, and I forgot the jaw does that. The head, just like the original toy, rotates side to side, but it rotates at the neck, this time not at the base of the head. But what Neca also did, which is utterly genius, is they put a hinge there as well. So the hinge, if I just close the mouth up, the hinge can go that far down, and then this far up, meaning you could have it look like this. Imagine seeing that. This horrid thing slithering around in a dark alleyway, and you just happen to walk down there. You're screwed. Now that being said, this figure can be very, very tall. As I've already said, the tail is a complete reuse, but because of it being a bendy wire, you can pose it in a variety of different ways. And usually I like to bend it like this and coil it around to create kind of a miniature base, as it were. And that's the beauty of this piece, because of the way it is designed, the tail being bendy, you can really get any pose you want, and it truly looks more like an ornament than anything else. And this, when you've got everything opened out, it's a horrible sight to behold. The tail is the perfect stand. And here I'll bring in the original Kenner toy as well, so you can truly see the major size difference. And what's quite ironic is that despite these two being somewhat similar in size, they are actually two completely different scales. This is for the 5-inch scale figures, and this is for 7-inch scale figures. In fact, I will actually bring in some 7-inch figures. So here we have Isaac Clarke from Dead Space. And as you can see, yeah, he's definitely better off fighting against the Necromorphs. Here I'll bring in another one, another player select figure. Here is Damon Bayard from Gears of War Judgment. He might have a bit of a better chance given that he's got a big gun with a blade on the end. I do have his weapon, by the way. In fact, here's another one. Here's Vector from Operation Raccoon City, the Resident Evil franchise. He's used to facing off against horrible things like zombies, but this thing would probably have all three of them, because one of the key things about this character was that the tail, this horrible thing, was actually a constriction. In fact, there was actually something that was advertised on the packaging of this original toy was the constricting tail, being that it's bendy. And of course the jaw as well, which I can imagine once those fangs stab into you, it's instead of injecting incredibly potent venom, it's going to inject a load of acid into you instead. Yeah, that's not great. So let's get these guys out of the way, and I'll show you a comparison with some of my other Kenner homages by Neca. Now here is a Snake Alien stood up against my only other three Kenner homage figures, which are from left to right, the glow-in-the-dark Stalker, which does actually glow in the dark. I apologise for the missing hand. Don't ask, it's a long story, I don't know. Then we have probably the greatest one they've done that's not an ultimate figure, Spike Tail, and then Clan Leader on the right. And as you can see, even Clan Leader being the bigger AVP body type, still dwarfed by the Snake Alien. In fact, the only Predator that actually comes close is Stoneheart, who is pretty much the same height, believe it or not. And this is a big figure. You guys have seen me review this in the past. He is a big, heavy boy, and he is the only one that actually comes to that height, which just goes to show how big this beast really is. And like I said, with Isaac Clarke here, this is meant to be a standard human. Yeah, the Snake Alien just... yeah, you definitely would not want to see this in the Hadley's Hope colony. If this thing was in the Aliens movie, I think it would be game over very, very soon. And this is definitely one of those that Neca have gone all out on and completely redone in a more realistic and nightmarish way. So, let's get some photos. Right, so let's compare the two figures together, shall we? You can clearly see in these nice clear images that I've taken, you know, just how much Neca have pulled from the original toy to create this amazing figure. Again, I'm going to show off the jaw more clearly here because I want to provide a better image, but you can clearly see that, you know, what Neca have done is taken this original figure, they've amped up the detail, as you can clearly see here. They've also amped up the articulation as much as they possibly could with a design like this, and they've basically put it on a fuck ton of steroids. And you can clearly see here, if you look at the tail, this is why the reuse of the queen tail was such a clever idea, because if you look at the original one, the original Kenner one on the left, you know, it has the prongs on the side. If you look down on the lower part of the image at the lower left, you'll see them again. And when we come to the Neca one, since it reuses the queen's tail, the side prongs are also there as well. Here you can clearly see. The difference is the Neca one, because of the queen tail, has the prongs on the top as well, which they sculpted on the actual body to match. And it just makes it way more impressive. And this is the beauty of the head joint. As you can see, that hinge in the head allows it to look a lot more realistic when slithering around, whereas the Kenner one, due to only having a swivel cut, can't really pull that off. And here you can see I've got them matching each other right down to the poses of the jaws. And this next image, as you can see, the Neca one looks very intimidating, very nightmarish, while the Kenner one, due to its simplistic and kid-friendly design, looks simple, cuddly, and cute, and somewhat harmless. And here it is right now with the other Xenomorphs. I do have the Grid Alien from AVP coming in the mail. And even with the Dog Alien at its full height on its hind legs, you can see the Neca one, the Neca Snake just dwarfs it. And where would it be without some special poses taken of the clan leader and my other Kenner predators locked in combat with this thing? And this is the beauty of this figure. The posing. This figure is so fun to pose. It's so fun to pose, and which is ironic. The fact that it's so fun to pose and you can get so many different poses out of it, when it has no arms and legs. It's just a body with a couple of spikes and a head and a freaking tail. It's mostly tail. And even you can see here, Spike Tail, the Predator, is not having a good time. He's been ensnared all the way around. And I think it's because of the fact that most of this figure's a bendy wire tail. Makes it so fun to pose. And again, with that mouth, those movable fangs and mandibles and the jaw and all that, it creates a very, very expressive figure. And yeah, especially that. I'm really proud of this particular shot right here. He's tackling the stalker. As you saw, you can see he's literally, the stalker's just got his spear in the way before that inner jaw comes down into his face. This is the beauty of this Snake Alien figure. Because of all the little joints in its mouth, it's a very, very expressive figure. It's got to be my favourite Neca Alien so far, just because of how expressive it is, the amount of poses you can pull off with it. It is an amazing figure. And where would any photo be without a dib-dab? And yeah, you can kind of get the Snake Alien doing a dab, although it doesn't look the same because it doesn't have limbs. And here we'll just show off some shots of the packaging and, you know, the artwork. And a couple shots of the comic as well, and the Kenner packaging along with the KB repaint. So overall, what do I think of this figure? Well, I'm going to be brutally honest. I fucking love this thing. I absolutely love this figure. It is amazing. I highly, highly recommend you get it. If you're going to start collecting the Kenner homages, this is a brilliant one to start off with, if not the best one to start off with, in my opinion. It's just so nice. Now, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like the video, post a comment and whatnot. And if you are new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe and turn the notifications bell as well, because KB packaging, as I was saying, turn the notifications because I will be posting more videos. And with that, guys, I hope to see you all in the next video. Happy Halloween.